Okay. Good morning. How's morale? We're with you for 3 hours today. If you want to vent, 615-737-1045. That's the number. Titans lose to the Colts in deflating fashion, shall we say. 23-16, the final score. Drove back from Indianapolis last night. There are a lot of things to discuss at great length. Fortunately for us, we have the time and space to do so. Lucas Panzica is back there making it happen. Good morning, bud.
Is it?
I don't know. You tell me. I'm not having the best morning, but it is not for the same reasons that many of the people in the audience are not having a great morning. Mine involves our London trip, which is probably something we will have to talk about at some point in the near future. But I understand why people would not on this very fall-feeling day in Nashville. I went to Indianapolis. It was summer. I came back. It's 50 degrees. What the hell? I can understand why you and several of your friends and loved ones are not having the best morning today. And I imagine that it feels differently than you thought it would. For those of you who listen to the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff, immediately, Tyrone Brown on Facebook. How about benching Tannehill? Shut up. Just shut up. I am so prepared for today's conversation. I am not prepared for the stupidity that is likely it is likely to devolve into that being amongst them. Shut up with that. We're not doing that today. But I told Blaine Bishop that the Colts were a more competitive football team on the pregame show, on the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. Blaine said, Titans a better football team. Titans should win the football game. Titans should win by double digits. So that's all well and good. You're probably right. But will they? Double digits, bud. They were road favorites in ways that made me kind of scratch my head. Yeah, I know they smacked Cincinnati. Did you see what Cincinnati looked like yesterday?
Missed it by that much.
Oh, you would be having a much different conversation today had you played the Bengals of yesterday, because that was a much different Joe Burrow than the one that hobbled into Nissan Stadium and was on his back for the vast majority of 60 minutes. This is twofold, okay? Defense, not that good on the year. Thus far, returns have not been that good. This is not an elite defense. This is yet to be a great defense beyond the Bengals game. Yesterday, it was not even a good defense. It was a bad defense. Offensively, a lot of you guys are giving the offense a pass. And I am shocked by that. Shocked. Now, I'm not doing the Tannehill thing. What was that whoosh sound? What was that?
That was my chin brushing on the mic.
Are you that close to your microphone?
Just keep talking.
Do that again.
No, just go ahead.
I thought it was like the Clippy thing from Microsoft Office. You remember when he'd swoop in?
Yeah.
That's what the noise sounded like. I was like, is Clippy in the building? What's happening? Is he here to bitch about the Titans too? All right. Defense, not even good yesterday. Poor. Piss poor. Offense, you guys are letting them off the hook. Since when? 16 points all of a sudden is enough for you? 1 for 4 in the red zone is enough for you? I said that the person who made the comment about benching Ryan Tannehill, I'm not going to say that he is stupid. I'm going to say that the opinion is stupid. And it's not about benching Ryan Tannehill, but to act like the offense did a good job yesterday just because the ball physically moved from 20 to 20 is not something that I'm interested in doing today.
The bar is low.
Sure enough. And you've been conditioned that way. But if we are at a point where there is an acceptance level, not of what the defense did yesterday, but what the offense was unable to do yesterday, where there's just field goals all over the place. And hey, Tajay Spears got a touchdown. Isn't that nice? That's the only one they've had on the road. Just one in 3 road games. The rest has been field goals. Do you know how many points skill players for the Tennessee Titans have scored on the season?
Ooh. I'm going to say 21. 3 touchdowns.
36. 36 total points for skill position players on the Tennessee Titans.
So what? 5 touchdowns?
Mm-hmm.
5 touchdowns.
How many points has Nick Folk scored?
More.
36 points. Courtesy of Easton Freeze, I saw that stat yesterday. Nick Folk has amounted to 36 points on the season. The collection of Titan skill position players have also amounted to 36 points.
He hasn't missed.
And then they're just banking on him making everything from 50 plus now. Like, I couldn't believe they didn't even think about going for it on that fourth down early. They just said, all right, Folk, get out there, 53 yards. What? We're just casually assuming now that the kicker's going to make everything from 50 plus. I mean, I guess you got to lean on something. And frankly, I don't know what the hell else they lean on right now. Now, here's the thing. For those of you who did not attend the game, and there was a fair amount of you that make that trip on a regular basis, not a bad drive to Indianapolis, a little less than 4 hours. For those of you who attended the game and did not see on Red Zone or watching football throughout the course of the afternoon what your next opponent also looked like in a game against an inept Steelers offense, you and the Baltimore Ravens, as a fan base, are likely having the same conversations or similar conversations on the day, because their performance yesterday was horrendous. I have not seen the full game. I saw the highlight package. I saw the condensed version this morning. Woof, drops everywhere. I feel so bad for Lamar. But this team, what are they? What on earth are the 2023 Tennessee Titans? Can anybody in the audience tell me?
No.
Anybody?
In the F&M Bank chat, Kicks Good says 13 carries for 43 yards for Henry, just not enough in a close game. And then 2 comments later, Jay says force-feeding Henry is a bad coaching decision.
Listen.
That's where we're at.
Understand. None of you seem to have the answer. The bigger problem is neither do they, okay? Henry didn't get enough carries. Henry got too much carries. Bench Ryan Tannehill. Trade Kristian Fulton. To who, I might ask, by the way? What the people say, firing off trade deadline tweets about Kristian Fulton. Are you not watching this guy? What the identity of the Tennessee Titans is confused. They don't know what they are. We don't know what they are. Nobody in the NFL seems to know what they are, except to know that they are imminently beatable on the road. And so now, when Mike Vrabel is speaking to us yesterday in the postgame press conference in the bowels of Lucas Oil Stadium, which I have talked about before, has been my house of horrors, not because of any attachment to the Tennessee Titans, but because that damn stadium is the site of my high school trauma, just making to state championship games twice in high school and getting crushed. But that's neither here nor there. So we're in the bowels of Lucas Oil Stadium. And Mike Vrabel is telling us what he told the team after the Cincinnati Bengals game. Can you play the audio of the head coach at the podium last night?
Frustrating, man. You try to get on a streak and try to get something going and try to talk to him about the things that you do when you win and try to, validate it. That was the whole message. The entire week was validating how we need to play and what we need to do.
Oh, validation. So, validating how we need to play and what we need to do. I understand the point that he's trying to get, but what I think and what you probably fear is that they did validate a lot of opinions about them yesterday. That they are an inconsistent football team, that they seem to be a bit of a directionless football team right now. And while the domination of Cincinnati was enough feel-good to get you through, and if you keep winning games at home, that's going to amount to what this year? 8? Because the Ravens game is not, it is a home game, but it's not. That this Jekyll and Hyde nonsense that they continue to bring to the table on a week-in, week-out basis, that may validate exactly who they are. That may be who they are this year. Now, it's 5 weeks in. They have 12 more weeks to figure it out, theoretically. They're probably going to use every one of those 12 weeks to figure it out. And it's probably going to be close at the end. But the thing is, it's getting late very early for them in this division. Where are they in the AFC South standings right now? Can you tell me? They are dead last. Can you tell me who's in first?
Indianapolis Colts.
They have a divisional win. They have a head-to-head win over the Jaguars. They have now played 3 AFC South games. They have a built-in lead over you. Now you're chasing. And whatever you want to use. Hungry dogs run faster. You know, you'd rather be the people chasing than the ones being chased. That's a quote from Kevin Byard a couple years ago.
I don't think any Titans fans are saying that today.
They shouldn't be. I don't think here's my thing, okay? 5 weeks of football, what do we know? I don't think they're a bad football team. I also don't think they're a good football team. I think they exist. I think they exist in this purgatory that is the middle of the league. Whether they finish at the bottom of their division or not remains to be seen. Obviously, there's a lot more time that this thing will play out over time, but I just believe them to exist. Like, I think it's not like the lady on the plane, right, where that mother bleeper's not real. No, they're real. They're there. They do things from time to time. They can look like a football team. But not enough to do anything of consequence to date. And certainly in an opportunity that was eminently gettable. Eminently gettable. They didn't lose to Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. They lost to Gardner Minshew and Zach Moss. 615-737-1045 is the number. If you would like to join the conversation, you are welcome to do so. You also have access to the F&M Bank chat. We will talk about the bar and how low it has gotten on offense. The defense we will talk about later. Mike Vrabel speaks at noon. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
4th and 1. Tannehill gives Henry, hit and driven backwards. He went on the right side, and Buckner absolutely blew it up. They tried to sneak the big man through, but the bigger man, DeForest Buckner, knocked him down for no gain. The ball goes over on downs with 8:03 remaining, and the score remains Indianapolis 20, Tennessee 16.
So that is a failed 4th and 1 with Derrick Henry with the opportunity to get themselves back in the game, to take the lead from the Indianapolis Colts, who seemed to be able to do it at will against a Titans defense that was struggling throughout the course of the game. Derrick Henry and his usage is something that is always going to be a talking point when they lose, right? That's one of the is that not, maybe it's not the first place that fans are going to go to see, okay, well, how many carries did they actually give Derrick? And maybe some of you won't even check. You'll just come away with a gut feeling, oh, we didn't use Derrick Henry enough. When you're asking him to now you're asking him to throw as many passing touchdowns as your damn quarterback is. Think about that for a second.
Yeah, they are really leaning into that.
Buddy, Cosell said something to me, I don't think it was this past week, maybe the week before, where he said, talking about the Titans on offense, he goes, they just can't they're not going to be able to just line up and play. Like, whoa, that sounds like a pretty big indictment. And he said it kind of casually as if it was just common knowledge. Like, no, this is a football team right now that can't line up and play. What do you most associate the Tennessee Titans with being able to do, at least in recent memory, if not this particular season?
At least be able to run the ball when everybody in the building knows you're going to run the ball.
Line up and play.
Like on that 4th and 1.
Greg is saying, no. This is not a team that can do this. So, yeah, not only does the running back have to convert the 4th and 1, he has to throw a touchdown pass to DeAndre Hopkins. Like, you got to find all the ways to get your offense going here. The double passes, the flea flickers, the King Cat, young Peyton Manning, all of it is going to be a part of not your surprise offense. That's your offense now.
And Tim Kelly was pulling out a lot of that stuff yesterday.
He was throwing a lot of different the drives were nice until they got to the red zone. They put together compelling drives. And I know the Spears drive, they got down the field efficiently. It was a 4 or 5 play drive, and ultimately he ended up scoring his first NFL touchdown from like 16 or 19 yards out.
19 yards where the defense is drawn to Henry sweeping left, and then Spears comes back the other way.
So, like, they did that, and that was good to see. And the drives that they were putting together was showcasing some of the different ways that they could get into drives. And then all of a sudden, again, in the red zone, they fall apart. Nathaniel Hackett was celebrated yesterday for beating the Denver Broncos.
Got the game ball.
With Zach Wilson. They put it on the Denver. They could have put it on the Denver Broncos a hell of a lot worse with Zach Wilson.
He played pretty well.
He did. He's not playing terribly as of late. But again, low bar. We'll talk about that here in just a second for offense. But Nathaniel Hackett got a game ball yesterday for beating the Denver Broncos because of the whole Sean Payton thing, right? You think Todd Downing is monitoring the Titans' red zone numbers without him?
Would Todd Downing get the game ball if the Jets were playing the Titans this year and the Jets won?
Depends on what the red zone numbers were. Because if you'll remember, the whole reason they promoted Todd Downing is because Todd Downing was an intricate part, whether you like him or not, of one of the most successful red zone offenses in football, like the last 3 years. So not a lot has changed about. They have improved from 20 to 20. The thing that they have fallen off a cliff on is the thing that has kept them alive in the last 2 seasons. Red zone. They're getting to the red zone more often. That was the whole issue. Well, they got a good red zone offense, but they're not getting there with volume. They're not sustaining drives. They're not prolonging the offense. I think Todd Downing is taking a look at some Titans red zone numbers lately and just taking a little victory sip with a smile on his face. Victory sip, probably a poor analogy there. I didn't think about that until I said it. Sorry about that. But I think that for the Titans, we have so lowered our expectations from them. I was talking to Kaharski yesterday. Kaharski, Paul looked at me in the press box and said, they're not very fun to watch. They're not very fun to watch. I said, no, Chief, I understand. I often don't enjoy watching their style of play. This has been a complaint of mine basically since I got here. And he said, after 25 years of it, you're going to turn into me. And then I freaked out. I saw what my future looked like, and I got scared.
Like, is it like the Geico commercial? Turning into your parents?
No, it's worse. It's not just turning into your parents, because Paul is old enough to be my father, I suppose, in terms of age proximity. I think he's like 25 years older than me. But like 25 years old, I just imagine. Have you seen the first Indiana Jones where they uncover the Ark of the Covenant, and the skin and blood and bone all melt from everybody's face? That's what I feel like 25 years of watching the Tennessee Titans play offensive football will do to you.
Titans currently have the third worst red zone offense in the NFL. They're tied with the Texans at a 35.29% clip. Only the Jets and Steelers have a worse percentage.
Think about that. The Jets and the Steelers who could get absolutely nothing done offensively yesterday, and the Ravens just miscues all over the place. 1,001 mental errors from the Baltimore Ravens yesterday in Pittsburgh. And the Jets, who are the laughingstock of the NFL, who the Chiefs' defense is saying, oh, they want to run the ball because of who the quarterback is. The Jets, that is the ilk that you are among. We have so lowered our expectations for offensive football for this team, going from 2020, the most effective offense in 25 years, or, to date, to that point, I think that would have been 22 years of Tennessee Titans football, to this, where 16 points, okay, but they move the ball. Hey, did you see Tannehill's stat line? 264 yards. Yeah, all of you want him to throw for more passing yards in a football game. Doesn't mean that you win the football game. This is what I feel like I'm banging my head against a wall talking to people about counting stats, not correlating to wins. Derrick Henry getting more carries does not mean you win that football game. Ryan Tannehill throwing for more passing yards does not mean you win that football game. Situational football is the thing that tips the scales. Yesterday, you were worse at it than Indianapolis was. The thing I think that probably frustrates you the most, at least it would for me if I was a Titans fan. They finally got the DeAndre Hopkins game. They finally got it. 8 receptions, 140 yards. He had a 36-yard catch, 17.5 yards per reception. He was uncoverable in certain moments, except the pass from Derrick Henry was just a little too high for him to get the second foot down as he lofted himself into the air to go get it. You got the D-Hop game. You finally got it. You know how long it's been since a Titans wide receiver has had 100 yards in a game?
It wasn't Burks in Green Bay. Is that the last time?
Yes.
Also their last road win.
Yes.
But can you tell me how many red zone targets DeAndre Hopkins had?
I cannot, actually. Did you look this up?
Just the one. You referenced it. And it came from Derrick Henry.
That was my biggest issue with the 4th and 1 call. Now, here's the thing. When you don't get it, there's going to be 1,000 different ways to criticize it. And had they thrown the ball on 4th and 1, you'd have said, you idiots, and not 4th and 1 and not gotten it, right? You idiots. You have a 250-pound, 6'4" running back. Let him lay down across the line of scrimmage and get the yard. So you would have buried them either way. But I did think formationally, there was no way that every Colts defender didn't understand that Derrick Henry was going to get a carry there, and that all they had to do was beat the Titans' offensive line on a day where the Titans' offensive line, not in pass protection, but in the run game, was imminently beatable. That I think is the thing that really drives you crazy, is that the Hopkins usage, the Hopkins effectiveness was there for you to capitalize on, and you squandered it. You squandered until the very end, a game that was, there was nothing else Ryan Tannehill could have done on the interception. Like, he got clobbered as that ball came out of his hands. You can bury him for the interception if you want to. That would be stupid. But you got a solid Tannehill game. He didn't have a touchdown. He didn't throw a touchdown. But you got a solid Tannehill game. You had a game where until the very, very end, the final drive, there were no turnovers. You had a game that DeAndre Hopkins was effective. You had a game where the rushing attack, the usage of the running backs, was efficient. Derek was not particularly efficient. 3.3 yards per carry, 43 yards on 13 attempts. Not efficient. You didn't have the explosive plays there. But the usage of Spears and Henry was good enough to move the ball down the field. It's what happened in the red zone where they fell flat that squandered those opportunities, squandered those drives. Now, you may have thought yesterday you could get away with that game kicking field goals. Because the Colts, I mean, are they a good football team atop the division? They were certainly better than you yesterday, but do you believe in the Indianapolis Colts at 3-2? Where Anthony Richardson, knocked out of the game with a sprained AC joint, looked like he was in hell. Where Jonathan Taylor was a non-factor yesterday, they didn't need him. Zach Moss, which makes it even more confusing to me that they paid that running back $14 million a year when the offensive line looks as good as it does. And Zach Moss with Gardner Minshew, they couldn't stop it.
Efficient. They were just crazy efficient. In fact, what does this sound like to you? The Colts won by outrushing the Titans by 100 yards. Very efficient performance by the quarterback, 11 of 14 for Minshew, 155 yards. Same with Richardson, 12 for 9 for 98 yards.
No sacks of Minshew, but one sack of Richardson, which was a weird McCreary situation.
Where Richardson flings it out of bounds, and it's only a sack because it's a backward pass, so technically a fumble. But what does that sound like to you? The Colts win up front. They outrushed the Titans. Quarterback was efficient. You win 23-16.
What does it sound like to me?
It sounds like how the Titans like to win football games.
Mm-hmm. No, they out-Titaned the Titans.
They played your game against you.
Ooh.
Isn't that what happened?
It's a good way to summarize it, I think. Offensively, they beat you at your own game. Now,
timely X plays.
Yeah, what was the Titans' longest play? Was it the 36-yarder to Hopkins? I need to pull up my miscellaneous stat sheet. It was the 36-yarder to Hopkins. They had a 25-yard gain also to Hopkins. And then Trayvon Wesco, dual threat, 21 yards.
The opening drive.
Those were their, they had one more, a 20-yard pass to Hopkins. That was their 4 explosive plays of 20 or more yards on the day.
Colts had 5, but the problem is 4 of them came on third down.
The third down defense. I'm not somebody who's going to bring up the Schwartz thing being the reason why they look the way that they do defensively again. But it's hard for me to talk people out of it. And I'm not necessarily interested in talking people out of it because I don't know what the answer to that is. I wasn't in the meeting rooms with Jim Schwartz. I know generally what he was involved in, but not to what extent and how much difference it actually made versus Shane Bowen and Mike Vrabel. But third down defense yesterday, 2020 vibes. And that is nightmarish. Colts able to convert at a pretty comfortable clip. Titans on third down were not terrible either, ironically enough, which is, again, a thing that frustrates you about your offensive performance. But on the whole, the third down defense for the Tennessee Titans was a concern yesterday, and it has been some time since we've had to talk about that legitimately. They converted 61.5% of their third down opportunities. They were 8 of 13. Titans were not bad, 5 of 12, 41.7%. But they were outgained by almost 100 yards in total offense. They were outrushed, as Lucas said, by over 100 yards on the ground. Titans actually had more passing yards. Net passing yards than did the Indianapolis Colts. But obviously that's because they had to be in obvious passing situations late once they started to trail and once the defense continued to let them down. You'll hear from, by the way, we haven't talked about Kristian Fulton, Jeffrey Simmons, defensive issues. Linebackers were in hell yesterday. Failure on multiple fronts. And I saw Mike Herndon accuse Kevin Byard this morning of not having made a single play this season, which is not something that I'm accustomed to, but is certainly worth a discussion at a certain point in time.
So 8 of 13, you said, Colts on third down?
61.5%.
So 4 of those, 3rd and 5, Colts on their own 45, 25-yard gain to Josh Downs.
Yep.
3rd and 5, Colts on their own 11, 26-yard gain on a short pass to Zach Moss.
Yep.
3rd and 16, Colts on their own 46.
This is the one.
Anthony Richardson passed deep left to Josh Downs, 38 yards. And 3rd and 1, Colts on their own 44. Zach Moss up the middle for 56 yards and a touchdown.
Do you happen to know who was the so read those off again and we'll go through them. Who at least the game book has as the primary defender in coverage on those plays. So take me through those chunk plays again, if you would.
All right, 3rd and 5, Colts on their own 45. This is the Josh Downs 25-yard catch. Gibbons and Byard. Attributed to it.
Gibbons and Byard in coverage there, according to the game book.
3rd and 5, Colts on their own 11. This is the Zach Moss pass short to Zach Moss for 26 yards. Elijah Molden and Byard attributed to it.
Interesting.
And on the 3rd and 16, Elijah Molden attributed to the Josh Downs 38-yard reception. And the Zach Moss touchdown does not have one.
Right. Well,
nobody was there.
There was literally nobody in that gap. Like Gibbons was supposed to be there. He could not get off his block to save his life. It was a tough game for Jack Gibbons after being talked about as Pro Football Focus. And it's not his fault that everybody was running wild with his numbers and calling him, so far through 4 weeks of football, the 5th best inside linebacker in the sport or something like that. And that's all well and good. He can have been to this point, but he got exposed yesterday. They all got exposed yesterday. So interesting there, worth noting there that 3 of those big plays. Now, Fulton's name is on this sheet plenty. Let me clarify that. And in critical situations as well.
Those are just the 3rd down ones.
But the 3rd down ones are as big an issue. So I ask you to do that just so we can articulate to people, not that Kristian Fulton is not a problem. Because Mike Vrabel, and I asked him a question yesterday, did you think about benching him? And you'll hear from Mike Vrabel about that in a second. But Kristian Fulton is not the only problem here. He is going to take a lot of your scorn. He deserves it based on the performance thus far. Now, I'm not saying that he deserves to be bullied on the internet or for the people who are fighting with his parents on Twitter. Brother, what are you doing? Like, you're adults. You're all adults on both sides of things. So I'm not going to tell you how to behave on social media, even though I find it eminently confusing. But one, parents on social media, just generally, it's such a toxic existence. I don't know why you would put yourself into it. Whatever, if they want to, that's their right. And if they want to defend their son when they feel like he's being attacked, of course, I'm not a parent myself. I can't speak to that feeling, but I assume that very, very much is a feeling that a lot of you can understand. The ones of you that are fighting with his parents on the internet, I cannot believe why you insist on telling Kristian Fulton's mother on Twitter just how bad he sucks and expecting you to agree with her, expecting her to agree with you. Yeah, you know what? My bad. You're right. My son was trash today. What are you doing? Anyway. 615-737-1045 is the number. That's just generally, that sigh that came from such a real place of just exhaustion, watching them make this look so damn hard week in and week out. I have never related more to all of you as insane people as I have, I feel like, this season. Because I completely understand why you're manic. It's just, this year it's more justified than it has been in previous years. Red zone offense is something that we will continue to talk about coming up next. We will also take your comments, your phone call. 615-737-1045 is the number. Defense is basically going to be the subject of the whole second hour, and Mike Vrabel is going to speak at the podium at noon today. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone.
40 years ago, we opened our doors with one mission in mind.
We'll be right back with the top 10 songs of 1983.
To sell quality American-made vehicles at a fair price.
You have arrived.
And we've loved every minute of the ride. Celebrating 40 years of Two Rivers Ford.
got some numbers to give you based on a conversation that former Titans punter Brett Kern had with us a couple of months ago that I think is worth revisiting, and not just because Brett sent me a text about it. But Aaron Wilson of KPRC2 in Houston is reporting that the Titans are releasing Jaden Peavy off of the practice squad. Interior defensive line play yesterday in the absence of T.R. Tart. Brother. T.R. Tart was going to make some money this offseason anyway. T.R. Tart is going to hold that Colts game up and say, see? Who? Maybe not, I'm single-handedly responsible for the best rush defense in football, but I'm a hell of a big part of it. You make all your cute little Pop-Tart jokes if you want, but they're going to be gold-plated Pop-Tarts by the end of the season, boys.
Just walk into the meeting with Rand and Vrabel, dim the lights, get the projector out, and hit play.
No, hit play and then draw a big old circle around number 94, Jaleel Johnson, and say, see how easy it is for Quentin Nelson to move him out of the way, to toss him aside? We've owned Quentin Nelson in the past couple of years. See? Pay me $12 million a year to your Tart. I don't know what kind of contract he's going to get. But we will have more time for that anyway. So, Lucas, can you tell me, if you remember, when Brett Kern came in here, it was right, I think it was maybe right after the retirement stuff?
Yeah, it was late summer.
And he said that every team meeting, no matter who the opponent was, that Mike Vrabel highlighted 3 things that they set out to do better than the opponent. Can you remember the 3 things?
Turnover margin.
Turnover margin is 1.
Outrush the opponent.
That's 2.
And something to the effect of affecting the quarterback.
QBR. Not affecting the quarterback, but QBR. So those are the 3 numbers Mike Vrabel is citing, at least when Brett was on the team, in team meetings. These are the 3 things. These are our objectives. QBR, rushing total, turnover margin. They have 3 losses and 2 wins. They have been, so in the QBR situation, do you know what the QBR disparity was against the Saints between Carr and Tannehill?
You mean Minshew? No. You said the Saints.
New Orleans.
No, what was it?
96.1 was Carr to 28.8 Tannehill. They outrushed the Saints. They turned the ball over, obviously the 3 interceptions more than did the Saints, but the Saints turned it over twice. Tannehill did have a better QBR than Justin Herbert in the game against the Chargers, 123.3 to 104.2.
Definitely did not against Watson.
They outrushed the opponent. Neither team turned the ball over. Titans win. 123.4 was Watson to Tannehill 62.8. They did not outrush the opponent, 78 to 26. Browns turned the ball over. Titans did not. Titans lose. Titans had a higher QBR than Burrow. Titans outrushed the Bengals. Titans turned the ball over once, so did the Bengals. Titans win. Indy, 112.8 to 78.6. 193 to 89, the rushing total. Titans turned the ball over once late in the game. Colts did not have a turnover. 0 for 3 on the objectives that they set out to achieve. So, they accomplished 1 of those goals against the Saints, 2 of those goals against the Chargers. Oh, actually, all 3 of the goals against the Chargers. 1 of those goals against the Browns. 3, push with the turnovers against the Bengals. But for the sake of the argument, 2. They did none of what they set out to do. None of what their core keys to success were accomplished in Indianapolis yesterday. 0 for 3. Kicks Good says there may be a whooping coming in London. Have you seen the Ravens lately? The Ravens' skill position players are an active detriment to Lamar Jackson. I am furious on behalf of good quarterback play for Trevor Lawrence at the start of the season and for Lamar Jackson, because I believe those 2 quarterbacks to be the players that have been failed most by their surrounding parts so far in the early goings. Maybe they'll iron things out. I know Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley got it together yesterday. That Bills game, we were watching it on the Jumbotron in Lucas Oil Stadium. They were obviously playing it during the pregame, and the amount of turnovers all over the place, just hideous.
Ravens lost to Gardner Minshew and the Colts, too, at home.
I would say that that's the worst rate. Like, of the losses that the Ravens have, Ravens record is what right now? 3-2?
They are 3-2. They beat the Texans, the Bengals, and the Browns.
The Colts' loss is worse than the Ravens' loss.
And the Browns did not have Deshaun Watson. They had to start Dorian Thompson-Robinson in that game.
Ravens lost that game at home. Ravens lost that game, a terrible officiating call at the end, but that's not the only reason that they lost the game. Matt Gay, the kicker for the Colts, also had himself a day.
And Justin Tucker with a rare 61-yard miss.
The rare 61-yard attempt, maybe not for Tucker, but even rarer, the miss by Tucker. If they only win their home games, and they would have to win all of their home games, if they only win their home games this season, like games actually played at Nissan Stadium, they're going to have a losing record again. They would be 8-9. Do you think there's anything that they can do to fool themselves mentally into thinking that London is actually home? Somebody was making jokes in the post-game locker room. I can't remember, or post-game press conference room. I don't remember who we were waiting on, whether it was Derek, Vrabel, or Tannehill at the podium. But said the idea that Jeff Fisher would do everything within his power to make the Titans feel like London was their home. He'd decorate the facility and with Great Britain's flag. He'd have them eat fish and chips at lunch and things like that. Just crazy things. Try and convince them that, no, London is your home now. You live here. The Ravens game being overseas is a less than ideal circumstance. Nobody cares. Work harder. It's the Kim Kardashian thing, right? We need that as a drop for me to call for every once in a while and for us to fumble around and not have.
This is the drop.
Them's the breaks.
This is the drop this week.
Yeah, but it's not them's the breaks. Like, they don't, them's the breaks is too kind to them.
No, that's only in relation to Boris Johnson and the fact they're going to England. That's the only reason I say that.
Oh, okay. The disgraced ousted PM. That was 2 prime ministers ago, Boris Johnson. Because I can't remember the woman's name, but she had like a couple of weeks in there and she completely wrecked their economy. And then all of a sudden, they had to get somebody, Richie Sumak, I believe, to bail them out. But they do not deserve them's the breaks. Them's the breaks allows for something outside of what it is, outside of it being their fault. They are in a circumstance that is entirely of their own creation at 2-3 thus far. And I think the Kim Kardashian, even if we're not going to use it because it is London week, the Kim Kardashian, nobody cares, work harder thing, I think is applicable to them at this point. The defense is supposed to be the thing that you can trust. It's supposed to be the thing you can trust, supposed to be the thing that you can rely upon game in and game out. It failed spectacularly yesterday. We'll talk about the different ways that it did next.
It is 11 a.m. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Titans' 5-game winning streak against the Colts ended on Sunday at Lucas Oil Stadium. A 23-16 loss. Titans were outrushed 193-89 on the day, including this 56-yard touchdown run by Zach Moss on a 3rd and 1 in the second quarter.
Going to give it to Moss. He's got a lot of room. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, end zone. Zach Moss has just gone a career-long 56 yards for an Indianapolis Colts touchdown.
The loss drops the Titans to 2-3 and last place in the AFC South after Week 5. Head coach Mike Vrabel will meet with the media coming up at noon. You can hear it live right here on The Zone. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second hour, good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. It's probably not a good morning for you if you are a fan of the local professional football team, of which I, of course, understand. 16 points, 23-16, the final score in favor of the hated Indianapolis Colts at Indianapolis yesterday. I was up there at the game. I talked to a lot of players in the locker room, least of which was Kristian Fulton, who we will spend the better part of this hour discussing today. But the defense on the whole is where we will start because football is the ultimate team sport. There is individual criticism that is deserved. There will be time for that. Right now, the unit as a whole, we have to talk about. Now, it felt like they were going to play decent defense yesterday. The linebackers, the inside linebackers, did not have a good game. Arden Key and Harold Landry have not been particularly effective. Basically, since Arden went crazy in the Saints game at the start of the year, Harold Landry has been a non-factor to date, other than the clutch play against the Chargers, which he absolutely deserves credit for. And Harold is returning from injury, so you understand the circumstance there. You understand that this was going to be a bit of a season-long discussion with Harold Landry. Danico Autry, Colts killer. I don't want to say that he was ineffective, but the circumstances around him allowed him to be less effective than you are accustomed to seeing him be. And early in the first half, Jeff Simmons is in a pile of himself, writhing in pain because he did something to his shoulder. Now, in the press box, Lucas, you know how this works. They announce injury designations in the press box for the media. They won't say specific, but they'll say a general body part. So let's say, in this instance, Anthony Richardson, shoulder, questionable, was the initial diagnosis, even though you could clearly tell that his shoulder was hanging off, basically hanging out of the socket. Now, it sounds like a sprained AC joint, which is not, I don't know, how big a difference is there between a sprained AC joint and a dislocated shoulder? Because I thought his shoulder was straight up out.
I haven't the slightest.
Okay. Well, this is good that we display our medical ignorance so that people can understand that we are not doctors, nor should you take your medical advice from Twitter.
I'll text Megan.
Okay. Yes, please. We do actually have somebody who we can consult with, Lucas's girlfriend. But the defense yesterday, Jeff gets hurt. We ask him in the locker room if he's okay because they never give us an injury designation. Jeff comes into the game. Jeff finishes the game. But he is not effective. I looked over at Rex Road, sitting on my right, and Tehran to my left, and said, it's like watching him in Kansas City or post-Kansas City with the bum ankle. Like, he's out there, but that's not Jeff Simmons. That's not the version of Jeff Simmons that you associate with the number on his back. He was not impactful. They were not, as a unit, able to get close to Minshew or Richardson, frankly. They had the sack of Richardson. It was a weird situation where Richardson throws a ball behind the line of scrimmage, out of bounds. Roger McCreary is technically credited with a sack as he brings him down, but it's not really a sack in the traditional sense. There is a holding call that Rashad Weaver draws. It is the most effective pass rush moment of the day.
How many hurries did the Titans have yesterday?
Do you know this?
Yeah. Do you? Don't look it up. Did you just look it up?
No, I didn't have time.
Hurries. One sack, obviously, with McCreary.
I'm going to say 10.
2.
No.
2.
How much money are you paying your defense? How much? And listen, I'm not pocket watch. I mean, I am pocket watching. We can do pocket watching sports radio today. That honestly, that's fine. That would disgust me. Like, I know Jeff's hurt. You're out there. You got to produce. Like, and I know he's sobbing in the locker room after Jacksonville with us last season, and he's talking about all the stuff he's shooting up his ankle with. I am totally sympathetic to Jeff Simmons. I understand that he is not he is not an underperforming player, but $100 million plus for Jeff Simmons. What was it? 85 over 5, 85 plus over 5 for Harold. Arden Key is on a substantive deal. Danico Autry is on a substantive deal. Travis Gibson played yesterday. A lot of you guys asked, where was Travis Gibson? Why didn't he play? He was out there getting snaps. I couldn't do anything. They are... I want to call them the biggest disappointment thus far this season.
The defense.
Yes. And I don't know if that's prisoner of the moment, because the defense has played well. They absolutely ransacked an immobile Joe Burrow. They were consistently in the backfield against Derek Carr. I thought that I had some questions about them this year. And Lucas, you tried to talk me off it in training camp. I was willing to accept that I might have taken a bit of an extreme position when Warren Sharp's front 7 rankings came out. Remember? And the Titans were like 26th or 23rd. And people were outraged. What do you mean? They're one of the best defenses in football. They're one of the best front 7s in football. They have yet to be to date. Now, I'm not saying that Warren Sharp was spot on or that was forecasting a year to come, but thus far, the returns have not been, they are not one of the best defenses in football. By many of the metrics, they are a below average defense in football. So when I say, of things that have underwhelmed me or I felt like I have let down expectations that I have, there are 2. There is the Titans defense generally, which includes, and Kristian Fulton is a massive part of. Because while we are talking about a collection of players, there are individuals who deserve individual scrutiny and blame as a result. We will get to the corner in a second. But Treylon Burks and the Titans defense are 2 things that I have come away through the first 5 weeks of football feeling like I have been let down.
Red zone offense as well.
Red zone offense is... Red zone... I just assume that red zone offense maybe would not be one of the best in football anymore, but I assume that there would be red zone offense there with Derrick Henry as an option. That has not been the case. Red zone offense is... Honestly, Lucas, we should put red zone offense higher than the defense. If you were to... At least for me, if you were to stack them, Treylon Burks, in terms of the things that have most underwhelmed me, power rankings on October the 9th. Treylon Burks, red zone offense, Titans defense. Those are 3 pretty important things. One of them being the thing that I thought even as I wasn't necessarily buying on this is going to be the best defense in football. I wasn't even really sold on the idea of it being a top 10 defense in football prior to the season beginning, but whatever, wait and see. The defense, though, is something that I still thought, even as I thought they might not be, that they would be in the top half of the league, but, maybe not top 10, maybe like 14 or 15. That is the thing that I thought that they can consistently lean on. Now, maybe they have leaned upon it too much in the early goings, and the offense and the struggles that have resulted have put the defense in unfavorable positions. And maybe I'm not being fair to the defense. But, this is kind of what fans get the benefit of. Your expectations don't have to be fair. I do think that they have to be. What's the difference between being fair and being realistic? Maybe you think there's not much. I think that there is a fair expectation of the Titans to have an above-average defense. I think that has not been the case thus far. I think that has been one of the biggest frustrations all around, is that you thought you had something and you're finding out, at least to date, that the thing that you thought you could trust the most is a thing that just let you down in a massive spot in a divisional game that you had to have against a franchise that you frankly have owned. Now, I talked about this on the pregame show. Your record in Indianapolis means nothing yesterday. Your record against the Colts leading up to yesterday meant nothing yesterday. The only way that it means anything is if you get the job done. And they fell flat on their faces that way. But that was an imminently beatable football team. The Titans, I'm not going to say that they were, Blaine Bishop, we talked about this to start the show. Blaine told me on the pregame show they're a better football team. They should beat the Colts. Colts are a worse football team. I'm not that impressed with the Colts. Titans should win by double digits. I don't think you can afford them the benefit of the doubt as being better than anybody at any one particular thing right now. What are they better at than anybody else in the league?
Kicking's pretty good.
They haven't missed a field goal. They haven't missed a field goal. That is something truly that they can lean on. Good on Nick Folk. What else you got for me? What can they lean on? Anything. One thing that's not named the kicker that just got here a couple of weeks ago. Okay, maybe like a month ago.
Well, everything other than the kicking has let them down at one time or another.
Right. So the answer is nothing.
Like the quarterback play had let them down in week 1. The run game, or lack thereof, let them down certainly in Cleveland, certainly yesterday. The front seven let them down yesterday. The secondary has let them down on multiple occasions. There's not been one thing that they've been able to fall back on week in and week out. But that's the inconsistency that we've talked about.
The F&M Bank chat, Brian says, Buck, could the problem with the defense be that the wrong defensive coach left Nashville? And he's talking about Jim Schwartz. They are a worse coaching staff for having lost Jim Schwartz. Yes, they are. Jim Schwartz is a great coach. He has been successful. I mean, not as a head coach, but basically in every other stop that he's Buffalo struggled with him as the DC, but Philadelphia went to a Super Bowl with Jim Schwartz as the DC. He has been successful enough around the league. He went to a Super Bowl here with the Titans. He has been a very, very high-level defensive football mind for a long time. You are a worse staff for losing him, no question. That does not Chris Harris, and I'm not smoking out assistant coaches now because I don't think that's fair either. Chris Harris was thought of as one of the most attractive hires in this cycle this year, right? Maybe not as a head coach, but as a coordinator. Chris Harris, the Titans, not our friend from WSMV, but the Titans defensive back coach, who was still considering DC options while planning to take the job here in Nashville. They had to sell him on staying here after he had agreed in principle to become the DB's coach here. The secondary, what's happened? There hasn't been any substantive changes with the secondary. Was a problem last year. Jim Schwartz was here. What helped me understand that? Now, their pressure packages, how creative they get in third down situations. Schwartz certainly can help. Schwartz understands matchups. I'm not saying that others on the coaching staff don't, but I'm not going to sit here and argue that they're a better coaching staff without Jim Schwartz on it. I'm just saying that the drop-off in as many different places as there has been drop-off, I just don't think you can, in any realistic situation on any football team, assign that to one individual. But it does matter. So, Kristian Fulton, speaking of things that mattered, I asked Mike Vrabel whether they thought about benching him yesterday in the game. You'll hear from the head coach on that and Kristian Fulton himself coming up next. Welcome back to the show. 615-737-1045 is the number. F&M Bank Chat also available to you if you would like to react to the Titans' 23-16 loss at Indianapolis yesterday. Part of that reaction is certainly going to have to do with Kristian Fulton. He continues to be a problem. What is the best game that Kristian Fulton has played this year?
I don't know.
Nope.
The Bengals game, that's probably the best game everybody on the defense has played this year.
That's right.
That's the thing about the cornerback position, though. We're not watching tape, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing when bad things happen, and bad things have happened.
Well, you and I are.
Very often with Kristian Fulton. But I'm just talking about the general reaction.
Oh, sure. But
so, like, what game did Kristian Fulton have his best snaps, right? His best reps?
It's the Bengals. It's the Bengals. Burrow didn't have any time. Hell of a lot easier to cover when ball can't get out, especially when the ball's coming out in 2.2 or whatever it was for Burrow, where it's 1, 2, balls out. Like crazy. So Fulton has been consistently a problem this year. Now, Pro Football Focus grades are flawed. But Pro Football Focus no longer has him giving up a perfect passer rating in coverage to opposing quarterbacks, but it's damn near. This is through a sample size of 4 games because, of course, he missed their first win of the season against the Chargers. Trey Avery was the player who filled in his stead. Now, Trey Avery did not play overwhelmingly great against the Chargers. Made a couple of nice spot tackles, but explosive plays were a thing in that game too. So,
which that is an explosive play offense, right? That's what they do.
The Chargers, yes. But also, every offense has turned into an explosive play offense against this particular defense.
Fair.
In coverage. Fulton, there's no the Titans' defense in turnovers, it's not been prevalent this year. Interceptions have not been present. They're not forcing fumbles at a rate where they would like to, obviously. But Fulton in particular, I sat in the press box a mile above the actual field, because that's where the press box is at Lucas Oil, in the rafters, right next to Jim Irsay with his giant red nuclear button that allows you to open or close the roof at any given point, which is absurd because they had it open yesterday, and it started to rain at an indoor stadium. By the way, which I was told by some of the people who work the events at Lucas Oil, the turf itself cannot handle participation. There is no drainage at Lucas Oil Stadium. There is no hump in the middle of the field that would allow runoff on the field. So if it were to actually rain and they didn't close the roof in time, the field would flood, which is objectively hilarious to me. But anyway. Kristian Fulton, whether it was getting shaken in coverage or penalties that, may or may not have been called correctly, depending on who you ask, Kristian Fulton has been a source of one of their issues. He is not the issue. He is one of their issues, but he is a big old glaring one as of late. And the thing that is most inexplicable to me, when have we ever prior to this season questioned Kristian Fulton's competency as a corner? I can't recall. I mean, the Eagles game, he got taken for a ride. He got hurt because A.J. Brown ran over the top of him. Eagles game was not a good game for anybody in the Titans secondary. McCreary got rocked. Byard got rocked. Hell, Byard said that's the one game he's played where he felt like, we just didn't have a shot.
Availability's been the problem with Fulton.
Never competency at the position. Truly. I mean, there was some issue when he first got drafted because they were playing him in the slot. He had been an outside corner his entire life. It wasn't comfortable. He got hurt. He came back in. They played him on the outside. He looked much better. I have never had questions prior to this season about his ability. And now I am sitting there wondering, what the hell is going on with this guy?
But that makes it sound like Kristian Fulton is one of the best corners in the league when healthy.
No. Okay.
Right? To say never. Like, there's been issues with Kristian Fulton. The biggest one has been availability.
Yes. Let me then rephrase, because that's a good point by you. I'm not making the argument for Kristian Fulton as being one of the best corners in the league. I am simply making the argument that he was a competent corner, an NFL starting caliber corner, whose ability to play the position, to me, was never in question. Like, if he's a starting corner, I don't have an issue with that prior to this year. Now, all of a sudden, 5 games in, I'm starting to have an issue with it. Mike Vrabel. So how long is this clip, Lucas? Because there's about a minute of answer before I ask him the question about Fulton, where he's talking about the start of the game. Is this just
the Fulton answer?
Okay, so he starts off talking about the different ways that they lost the football game. This is the very start of the press conference. I then ask him, Mike, I know it's not about one player, but was there any thought to pulling Kristian Fulton during the game? This was the response.
Yeah, there was thought. I thought wanted Kristian to challenge and do his job. And the double move is one thing. They double moved him, and I coached them even at halftime. I said, if they double move you, try to make sure that you're square and that you're, that's how we can play it. And the referee thought he slid over, late, but we just got to make sure that we keep our eyes on our man and not in the backfield. Man coverage. We're not going to intercept the football in man coverage. Our job in man coverage is to not let our guy catch the ball, and if the ball gets tipped, then the post safety is going to probably intercept it. But we can't go, looking for interceptions in man coverage. Your eyes will be in the backfield too much.
We can't go looking for interceptions in man coverage. So Mike's thing is basically he's hunting picks out there when he shouldn't be. He's keeping his eyes in the backfield. I mean, I don't want to repeat everything that he just said, but basically eyes in the backfield. It's a discipline thing. It's a technical thing. So we go in, and the scene in the locker room, it's always awkward, all right? You guys know what I think most of you know what a football locker room looks like. But it's particularly awkward, I think, in the pros when, it's a bunch of grown men. Everybody's trying to get dressed. The space in a visiting locker room is very, very condensed and uncomfortable for reasons that are done on purpose, obviously. And you're just trying to shower, get changed, and all of a sudden 30 media members come strolling in as you're, trying to get ready at your cramped little locker space. And you've, in this case, just lost an embarrassing football game because it was an embarrassing loss that they suffered yesterday. So nobody's happy to see us under normal circumstances, certainly not in this circumstance. But so, Lucas, if you were walking into the postgame locker room with us, who would you have wanted to talk to last night? Like, who would you want comment about the game from?
Fulton definitely would have been on the list, but I think Simmons would have been really high up there.
Jeff too.
To learn about the injury as a leader on this defense and with the front seven and what it was not able to do in the run game, especially yesterday. Those would have been probably my top two.
Most of us skipped Tannehill's press conference to wait for Kristian Fulton. Because the way that this works is Mike talks, locker room opens, players are getting ready. At some point, they'll pull Tannehill out of the locker room and take him to a podium, which allows players who don't want to talk to get ready while we're in there in the press conference and get out before we can talk to him. They do the same thing with Derek. So this is a strategy play. So Tannehill, I went for a part of Tannehill's press conference, and I missed Hopkins as a result, which honestly was not worth it. But anyway, caught a little bit of Tannehill's press conference, stayed long enough to ask a question, get the answer that I was an answer to the question that I was looking for. Immediately went back in the locker room because at that point, Tannehill is very low on my list of important people to hear from today. And Kristian Fulton, there is a barricade of media bodies around him waiting. Nobody's going in. Nobody's moving off it to talk to Andre Dillard today. Nobody's, just getting uncomfortable and just need somebody to talk to. So they're working their way down to, I don't know, Chig or something like that. Just a fringe player who people know that you can put on TV and get a quote from. No, there is a barricade of media people with Kristian Fulton facing the opposite direction of us, sitting in a chair, knowing that we are hovering behind him, waiting to ask him about how bad he was at his job today. And so finally he turns around. He's got a little bit of a smile on his face because, it's a weird situation, and obviously he knows what's going on. So he says, okay, let's go, and the questions start. And he's asked about what's going on with you technically. This was Kristian Fulton's answer.
I feel like I was very sound today. Besides one play, with the one with 11, where he caught the out or whatever, it was on me, I guess, bad eyes. But for the most part, I think today was, technically sound. Obviously, they made some plays or whatever, but, it's hard when you got to play against, the refs and the DBs. And the receivers. But life is a DB, and, I'm going to keep stepping every time. So I'll be back next week.
That play with Pittman, that was managed basically just been a move, or the one you were talking about?
Yeah, he just gave me a double move. Like I said, if you own everything, they're gonna try to do double moves on you. So, that's what I gotta start expecting now, I guess.
So that it goes on at some length, but what's the most glaring part of that? That he thinks he played a technically sound game. I'm not a defensive backs coach, okay? So I'm not the person in the position to say, yeah, but on this play where the ref is calling you for DPI down the field and you think your shoulders are square and they're clearly and obviously not, because I'm looking at a replay, like that is for the coaching staff to do. I'm not a coach. I'm not going to critique him technically beyond my level of competency, okay? But I know enough about corners that, one, you do need to have the mentality of, next play. That's what it is. And so his casualness, or at least the way that his tone conveys casualness, I think that's more a product of the position than it is anything else. But I know enough to know that Kristian Fulton, to say that he was technically sound in his job yesterday, is an incorrect statement objectively. And that he has to know in that moment that to do anything other than to accept responsibility in that moment and to say as little as humanly possible about it to us, even as I am there to ask questions, to get answers, and to that end, we got answers from Kristian Fulton on his feeling on things. It's an honest response. I'm not going to fault him for honesty. But the problem, and the thing that I hate most about, the media stuff, is that it benefits them so little to actually be honest with us.
Yeah, you're only making it easier on yourself by saying, I got to be better.
I got to be better.
Not good enough.
You hate coach better, play better, but Mike is doing that on purpose, to say as little as possible, because he's not going to let you pick apart whatever it is that you want to pick apart at. Coach better, play better, all of the things. We were not good enough to win today.
Anything other than coach better, play better could come off as excuse making, right?
Yes. Oh, when he mumbles, not only am I playing the wide receivers, I'm playing the refs too, brother. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. He knows that. He's been in the league. This is year 4 for Kristian Fulton. It's a contract year as a second-round pick. It's year 4 for Kristian Fulton.
Yeah, 2020 draft pick.
You know what this is. It's not the first time that you've been approached by me. It's never been this bad. So maybe he doesn't know how to handle this situation because he's never been this consistently bad or this consistently highlighted by nature of penalty or poor play. And now to the point where it seems like offenses are actively targeting who the player that we thought was the Titans' best corner this season. And so far it's been, McCreary again.
So how short do we consider the leash on Kristian Fulton to be then?
Short enough for them to think about benching him in the game. Now, they've done stuff like that before, but not with a player like Kristian Fulton. Do you remember Ty Smith? Ty Smith
corner?
Ty Smith for a period of time. He was one of these fringe corners, real nice guy. UDFA, if I remember correctly. He's kind of Trey Avery. Kalen Reed. Titans have had these guys that I'm blanking on. LaShawn Sims. There have been guys who I associate with this depth corner role who are going to have to play some come in a game, play okay, and hold up okay.
Mitchell, right?
Terrence Mitchell, another one.
Yeah, the Stray Cats.
Yes. So Ty Smith was a stray cat in this situation. I can't remember who he was in for. I think it was Adoree. Steelers, undefeated Steelers, 5-0. They were either 4-0 Steelers, 4-0 Titans, 5-0 Steelers, 5-0 Titans. I can't remember, both teams undefeated at the time. Ben Roethlisberger came in and got Ty Smith benched in a single drive. A single drive. Because he was just relentlessly going at him over and over and over again and having success. Now, that was not yet the case yesterday with Kristian Fulton, but it is becoming a thing where you consistently see his side of the field being targeted because they don't have their corners trail guys. I think the leash is as short as it has ever been. I don't think that here's the thing. Like, I don't think that Trey Avery is ultimately a better corner, but I don't have a leg to stand on this season.
And that's it. That's next man up, right? I mean, F&M Bank Chat is shouting to put Caleb Farley, and he's still on the PUP list.
For those of you who are unfamiliar with the PUP list, it is physically unable to perform. And he has a back injury. We're not even talking about because that's what in the F&M Bank Chat, M-Boy says, put Caleb Farley in, he's ready. He is actually physically not ready to be medically cleared to play football, much less to go out there and play corner.
And we have no concept on how close he is to that.
Oh, none.
None whatsoever.
None.
Yeah.
Other than Mike said, we're just trying to get the back figured out. That was a couple of weeks ago.
So just not you can put that out of your mind if you're a Titans fan right now. It's just not a fact.
When I say this, Caleb Farley in a football context this year does not matter. Okay? And his situation is obviously very, very difficult, but for the purposes of playing football this year, in my mind, Caleb Farley is not a factor. Caleb Farley may as well not be on the roster with the way that I think about the Titans cornerback room right now. Again, physically unable to perform, and we are at October the 9th. We are almost 6 weeks into football. Somebody says, when does Malcolm Butler come off IR? It's just, your depth right now is Shy Carter as a defensive back, is Trey Avery as a defensive back. Beyond that, I don't know that there's a player that I would be more comfortable putting into the lineup than those guys. And Shy Carter, by the way, just started his first NFL game last week, so it's not like Shy Carter is any kind of proven commodity, and he's more a safety than he is a corner. AJ wants to know, can Lucas cover? Yeah, I don't know. Can you? How is your lateral movement?
I will tear my ACL immediately, so quickly.
Especially on the turf, man.
One back pedal, it's over.
Just like a step, just to me.
One step, my knee's going in the wrong direction.
You're stepping backwards and just Oh no. Alex Ray says Trey Avery is mechanically sound. I mean, the Chargers game was not reassuring. I know Trey Avery can tackle, but coverage-wise, it was not an overwhelmingly reassuring performance from Trey Avery instead of Kristian Fulton.
I have a question.
Perhaps I have an answer.
What happened to Kendall Vildor?
He played himself very quickly out of the lineup. He's still there. He's still floating around back there, but apparently the snaps against the Saints were enough to say, it's not like Trevis Gibson, where Mike Vrabel immediately said, yeah, that guy's going to play more. Kendall Vildor, who was a Bears cast-off, who they acquired, I think once the season started, he exists. He is a person. He is available. But they do not seem overwhelmingly excited about putting him in there. 615-737-1045 is the number. The AFC South, where things stand. We can talk about it coming up next. Titans lose yesterday. It sends them to the bottom of the AFC South. Colts at the top, 3-2, 2-3 respectively. Wins for Indianapolis over not just Tennessee, but Jacksonville, who won yesterday as well. Colts and Jags now have the same division. Texans dropping one. I thought that they were going to win. C.J. Stroud, again, looks really good. He still hasn't thrown an interception. It's not the end-all, be-all of what a judgment of a good quarterback is, because they still have some stuff to work out around him as a team. But do you feel, are the Titans thus far the team that people feel worst about in the AFC South?
Put it this way, which fan base is least optimistic right now? Because the Texans fan base has tons of reason for optimism.
Mm-hmm.
C.J. Stroud's officially completed the most passes by a rookie without an interception, more than any other rookie in NFL history.
Yep.
He just continues to rise up those lists. He has yet to throw a pick.
He looks great. Also, Tom Pelissero is reporting that 2 Indianapolis Colts have been suspended for gambling issues. How?
I was talking to Joseph.
It was a sentence before.
Damn, you said the interception thing?
Oh, my God.
I figured you had said that. They did lose, though.
Yeah, I know. I said that, too.
But which fan base feels the most optimistic and least optimistic?
Most optimistic has to be the Texans. Has to be the Texans. They're getting good offensive line play from some dudes that they're bringing in on a week-to-week basis. They're starting to get healthy now. Tunsil was back. Titus Howard was back. George Fant looks pretty good. Looks like he was right to ask for more than veteran minimum money.
So not the Jags.
Jags should feel confident that London has gotten them right. But again, London is the thing that had to have gotten them right. What they do in the United States of America has still been very much questionable. Now, perhaps that's all they needed. And I don't think they have a bye after that Bills game. They just spent a week in London, are coming back after playing one of the best teams in the conference, and I don't think they're going to have a bye week, if I remember correctly. In fact, I think that's the case for several teams doing the international games this year. Titans do have a bye, but it's not like that was something that was given to every team to play an international game this year.
But the Titans fan base certainly has the least amount of optimism because everything feels a little more stale, right? When things aren't going well.
Oh, sure.
Whereas all of those other franchises are still in year 1 or 2 of a coaching tenure with a young quarterback where there feels like there's an ascension there.
Trippin' Titans in the F&M Bank chat says, I'd say the Colts might be feeling less optimistic than before with Anthony Richardson being injured again. Yeah, that sucks. He's probably going to miss at least a month, if not more, with a sprained AC joint. I hate that. I hate that he can't stay in the lineup. Just as a football fan, I want to see him play well. I want to see the best quarterbacks. I want to see the best talent out there week in, week out. So he could play for the Arizona Cardinals, and I'd still want to see him out there, even though I know you're a Titans fan and you don't care what happens to the Colts quarterback. But do they have the best backup in the league? He didn't get touched yesterday, so maybe easier for him to look that kind of competent when you just aren't getting bothered. And by the way, credit to the Colts offensive line because that group was very much in question coming into the season. Thus far, they have looked more themselves.
He might be the best backup in the league.
Andy Dalton, I guess, would be in that conversation in Carolina.
Jacoby Brissett's a pretty good backup.
Brissett is a solid nominee. And then, there's one more. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They probably feel pretty good about the fact that they won that game without their starting running back, without their $14 million a year running back, and without their 4th overall pick at quarterback. They probably feel pretty optimistic today because Shaq Leonard's going to be back at some point.
They did that without their left tackle yesterday.
They did it without their left tackle. They did it without their stud inside linebacker. They did it without their leading pass rusher. Kwity Paye didn't play.
And quarterback and star running back.
Unbelievable. I had forgotten about the guys that they didn't have going into the game because of not how bad the guys that they lost to were, but how underwhelming the guys that they lost to were, ignoring the fact that there were advantages all over the place for Tennessee to take and just couldn't get it done. West V Mountain says Willis is one of the best backups in the league. I don't think that's true yet. Small sample size. Maybe at some point, but Tennessee, the next divisional game that they play It's after their bye week. This was the reason why this game was so important, why it was such a bad loss for them to take, because they are going to go a pretty decent chunk of time now before they will play the Jaguars for the first time this season on November the 19th. So you're talking about a period of over a month between divisional games. You have a bye in there, but you go London Ravens this weekend, Falcons home, 3 straight road games. You want to talk about things that look insurmountable? A team that can't win on the road, going at Steelers Thursday night, at Tampa Bay, who is apparently the class of their division, all of a sudden in the stinky NFC South. Or is it that stinky? I don't know. At Steelers, at Bucks, at Jags in 3 straight weeks before you play the stinky Panthers and the Colts at home.
They are stinky.
They are stinky. They're very bad. Very, very bad. I feel bad for Bryce Young. All of that.
Are they the worst team in the league right now?
Yes, it's not Arizona. Josh Dobbs is significantly better.
It's definitely not Arizona. I don't know, is it New England?
No.
If we're being totally honest.
Honestly, if Mario Cristobal did not exist, Bill Belichick was going to be my oh no. In fact, I think I might have to make Bill my oh no and make Mario my dumbest thing in sports this week. Because, oh my God, Miami. I am going to send you a clip that I want to use for that, by the way, of what local sports talk radio sounded like in Miami this morning. After that game, oof. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the conversation. You're going to hear from Mike Vrabel at the podium. We'll see what more he has to say after having watched the full game on film coming up next.
It is 12 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios as the Titans' 5-game winning streak against the Indianapolis Colts ended Sunday at Lucas Oil Stadium, a 23-16 final. Titans were outrushed 193-89 on the day, 165 of those rush yards by Colts running back Zach Moss, despite the return of star running back Jonathan Taylor. Titans went 1 for 4 in the red zone, and it drops them to 2-3 on the season and last place in the AFC South after Week 5. Head coach Mike Vrabel meeting with the media at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park as we speak. We will go to that live in moments. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Mike Vrabel's at the podium. Titans lost to the Colts yesterday. Let's go live to St. Thomas Sports Park.
Or did last week or 2 weeks ago. That doesn't have a whole lot of bearing on future opportunities. So what we'll have to do is improve there and understand maybe where things went wrong. We missed a play to Hop that we felt good about and just missed them. That happens. First and 20 is tough, and that got us off schedule, and then we didn't convert there at the end.
Are you taking enough shots at Hop in the red zone?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think the coverage dictates that, and we'll continue to look at that and see if those things can help us. But we certainly want to get him involved and need him at all parts of the field.
Some of your suspicions, I guess, about what went wrong in run defense confirmed by watching tape.
Yeah, I mean, they blocked us. They blocked us, and we got out of gaps, and when you play peekaboo, those things happen.
When they are blocking you like that, what have you got to do from a defensive standpoint, I guess from a player standpoint, to keep that from happening?
Keep them from blocking you? Yeah, put your hands in their chest and, leverage your gap. When the ball runs through your gap, shed and tackle and swarm to the football. So all the things that we've tried to do around here for a while. Sometimes, and again, they broke one, and, KB was down there playing the quarterback, on the run, and, wasn't it, he's been able to, and that's not our KB, that's just tell you where he was. Like, he was over there in case the quarterback pulled it, and, he's been really good for us when he's in the middle of the field, that when that ball breaks like that we can, he most usually likely gets him on the ground. He was over there playing the quarterback zone read game like we had told him to.
5 weeks in, how are you feeling about how Chig has developed in year 2 so far this season?
I think he's just inconsistent, and some of that's our ability to try to find ways to get him the ball, within what we're trying to do, but some of that's on Chig as well. So I love his effort. I love some of the things that he's doing, but I think there's some details and some things that he can be better at as well.
You and Kristian yesterday were both kind of talking about squaring up in the past game. Just for our clarity, what do you guys look for when it comes to squaring up?
Well, no, we're just talking about playing square, not letting these guys run, whether that's within 5 yards or within 10 yards. I'm going to say the same thing to Amani Hooker. You have leverage on every pass coverage, or man or zone, and leverage may mean inside eye, outside eye, but not turning and letting them run. And if you're square and they run into you, you probably get the benefit of the doubt. Not if you slide in front of them or catch them with your arm. And so I think that's just the focal point, and that's not trying to let anybody off the hook. It's just trying to talk to the league and the officials and the things that they look for. And, you know, when you are able to play square and move your feet, you know, sometimes you get the benefit of the doubt.
Some of the things that are happening, like maybe eyes in the backfield, sitting on the sticks, are those things that are easily correctable?
I don't know. We'll see. They better be correctable quickly. Would hope that we wouldn't be having these conversations about putting our eyes in the backfield and, you know, grabbing guys down the field and when we're in phase. I think those are just things that we have to be able to, you know, understand you're in phase. There's no reason to grab a guy. And
when you have a guy like that that has ability but you're not getting the results, like how do you go about managing him and getting to coach to those results?
Well, I mean, I think at some point in time, this is professional sports, and we're going to coach them, coach every single one of them, Kristian included, but we also have a job to do, and we have to go out and do it. And 1 week doesn't mean anything, and one game doesn't mean, you know, I mean, it's unfortunate, but then we have to keep moving on, and we have to improve and figure out, you know, is it that we're trying to make some plays? And I mean, if you're in match coverage, really, the whole goal is that we don't let our man catch the ball, not that we're trying to make interceptions in match coverage, because then you start looking for the football, you start looking in the backfield, and then, you know, they uncover or they make another move. So, you know, there's opportunities when we can try to get an interception, and in man coverage, that's not one of them.
What's your comfort level with the young guys that are behind him, though? I mean, you feel comfortable if you throw them out there that they can play well?
I mean, yeah, that's why everybody's here. You know, and that's something that could happen, and you know, we'll see where things go here the rest of the day in our meetings, and you know, as we work towards Baltimore.
You just talked about an example of maybe a guy trying to be a little too eager to try to make a turnover. You talk so much about it. Is it just not happening, or are there other things that defensively you're not doing to put you in the right position to make it happen?
Well, you could tip a ball at the line of scrimmage. You know what I mean? We don't tip any passes that then get intercepted. Talk about tip balls getting intercepted, so we don't tip any at the line of scrimmage. You know, we don't hammer any footballs out. And the ball was never in jeopardy yesterday. Quarterbacks are usually the number one target, and when you hit the quarterback 2 times, it's hard to think that you're going to get the football out when you can only hit them twice.
Was yesterday a step forward in pass protection for you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I thought, you know, the pass game was, you know, efficient. You know, would have liked to, you know, been better in the red zone when we threw it, but you know, we hit some chunks, we hit some play passes. You know, I thought there were some good things there. Certainly, there were some good pockets, and you know, quarterback got hit a couple times, but I felt like we had time to you know, work our way through and progress through the route, and gave him some time to get the ball downfield. Yeah, you know, I think a little rusty, but you know, maybe a little conditioning, but I think excited about, you know, getting him back in there and having him another week, and you know, it was a good step for him to get back out there and, you know, be able to play through the entire game.
Nicholas, one of the guys that was inactive, it just the feeling on him going into the week, he just needs more time to get his technique and conditioning, everything back.
Yeah, I mean, Nick's been out a while, so Nick will have to earn a spot back onto the offensive line and what we're trying to do. So he had a little bit of practice last week, and he'll get more this week.
Agents tweeted that he's joining the practice squad. He's a veteran guy. What does he bring to the defensive line?
I don't even know if he signed the papers or not. So until I get confirmation of that, I'm sure his agent, you can check with him on Twitter. But I'll let you know soon. I don't want to say something misspeak. You know, when I in the process of me coming up here.
How's Tyjae Spears progressed as an offensive weapon this year?
You know, good. We got to continue to find ways to get him the ball. my favorite contributions that he makes, I know that he's going to do good things with the football, but even on the pass to Wesco there on short yardage, he's sprinting down there to block somebody that's trying to hit, Trayvon, and he tries to protect the guy with the ball. Didn't really mention it, I don't think, during the week in Cincinnati, but the 15-yard penalty that everybody was questioning was Tajay coming over and blocking a guy and squaring him up in the hole and then driving him as the pass went, and the guy ripped Tajay's helmet off, and that's what they ended up calling it. So I think there was some questions on, was it on the quarterback, was it on Nick? It was actually Tajay's willingness to go in there and block the guy and finish as long as he could that the guy got frustrated and ripped his helmet off. So those are the things that, again, we talked about in Minnesota when he came in and blocked in the pressure and the mug look. And so those are all really, really positive things outside of what he does with the football in his hand, which, speaks for itself.
With DeAndre Hopkins, that drive coming out of the halftime, it kind of took over that drive. How do you like the way he's just kind of getting settled in as one of the major guys in the offense?
Well, he has to be, and he knows that, and the connection that he has with the quarterback and his ability to find seams in the defense, and whether it's to settle down or uncover, run through his zone. Ryan gave him a good ball, or his ability to adjust to a pass, his body control. So, I know up until yesterday, he obviously would have wanted more production, but I've mentioned before, every time we've needed a play on third down, he's been there, or a play at the end of the Chargers game, made a huge play. So yesterday it was great to see him, have some, production.
You talked a lot about explosive plays that you get defensively, but offensively, you've got a bunch of 15, 16 play drives. Do you need a few more explosives to make you not have to drive 80 yards in 17 plays?
I mean, unless you score from the 50-yard line, you're going to have to be good in the red zone. So, we'll take as many as we can get. I think we're trying to get them. Maybe we could have thrown to Chris. I think Ryan could have probably let one go to Chris Moore there around maybe it was the 35 or something going in. But other than that, I don't know where we would have, gotten any more of them.
What kind of factors went into
maybe break a couple runs, but that was few and far between.
What kind of factors went into your decision to practice here for most of the week rather than go over to London for the entire time?
Our experience, I think, the last time that we went over is get a lot of work in here, have everything that we need here at the facility, work ahead, make Tuesday a Wednesday, Wednesday a Thursday, Friday, and so on and so forth. Get over there, get adjusted, have a Friday practice, clean up a lot of the stuff that we did, and then have our normal preparation for the game. I've talked to a lot of people that have done it both ways, and that's how we did it the last time. Felt like we were ready to go, and it just didn't end the way that we wanted to.
Were there any things from that last time you were there that you said, okay, you know what? Next time we're going to do differently, and you're doing differently this time?
We're going to get the 2-point conversion. That's what we're going to do.
But as far as operation-wise.
Oh, okay. I felt like it was good. I felt like the hospitality was good. We provided buses and security and things for the players so that they could go into the city and see what they wanted to see. That worked out well. Guys left and went down there early. Got back early, got sleep. We do a little light workout, stretch, and take a walk, and do some stuff before our Friday meetings. Other than that, I don't know what, we'll have all our staff over there, our training staff and medical staff for the players.
You practicing in Duke's front yard again?
No, we're not. We're at a different place. No Duke Castle.
Is there anything you have to tell the players preparation-wise to keep their bodies right for all the travel, or is that something that you kind of expect?
No, we do. I mean, we're trying to, you can dial back a little bit on the sleep and make sure that we're hydrated and limited on the caffeine and all those things that are going to be critical when we go and travel. So hopefully we can, start to try to, get a little bit of extra sleep or, make sure that we're going to bed a little bit earlier.
You're listening to Titans head coach Mike Vrabel at the podium today.
As they said, it was a root for some of their injuries. Have you guys done research and looked into that surface?
We have. We've spoken to both teams and both equipment managers, and however the field is, I'm sure it's safe and sure it's rated. That's their opinion. I haven't played on it. I won't play on it, but we'll have to be prepared for whatever the surface is.
After a frustrating game that nobody's happy with, is there a level of accountability you want to see from your players after a game, and what does that accountability look like to you, when you see guys, how they interact, how they talk, how they reflect on their own performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think accountability is critical. Accountability and discipline. Not making excuses, showing up. We know it's a long season, and game is humbling. Sometimes, you put a lot into it. Sometimes you lose, unfortunately. But come back to work, get back to work, and prepare and to go play a good football team, a disciplined, physical football team that's really good in the red zone on both sides of the ball. They run it, they stop the run. So we know what we're getting ready for. A lot of respect for them, and we just have to come to work and start preparing. As much as it's disappointing, like we got to move on, and I try to give myself till 9 o'clock to quit pouting, and it's time to go to work.
Traylon on IR. Does he have a shot this week?
We'll see. I mean, I know he's working hard, and we'll see how he does. And tomorrow and Wednesday, and we'll see how he does. But hopeful that he can try to get out and start running around.
Do you think he's got a shot this week?
I hope so. But it's early in the week. I don't know.
You got 12 games left, obviously, but this is one before the bye week. Is there any special message to the guys about getting this one or kind of getting back to 500 before you go?
I hope we try to get every one we play. I mean, that's the message, is let's try to win every one we play. Like, just it's a week-to-week league, and focus on this week and everything that we can do, and then figure out where we go after that.
That's good.
Thanks.
All right.
That's Titans head coach Mike Vrabel. Who's he chirping at in the background?
No, I think he said speak now or hold your peace, because Robbie asked if everybody was good.
That's because the schedule's obviously different this week because they're going to be traveling on Thursday, which is also when I am traveling. So we will let you know logistics about the radio show and things like that probably on Wednesday. But yeah, they did that last time where they went a couple of days early. Ravens, I guess, are going like today?
Ravens are going early. Yeah, their wheels up today.
Did you happen to catch any of the post-game stuff? I didn't see it until last night from Bills Jags, where Trevor Lawrence is calling the Bills sleepyheads.
I missed that.
I guess that they were
sleepyheads.
It's the best kind of trash talk I've ever heard. Sleepyheads. Because, Bills went over like 48 hours before. Titans are going over on Thursday, so that means they'll get there, late Thursday night, early Friday morning. But there is something to that, like the jet lag and it's 6 hours time difference between Central Standard Time for us and London.
And watching that game yesterday, Jags-Bills, made me think that if there ever were to be an NFL team in London, let's say the Jags just moved to London, what a home field advantage that would be. Just such an inherent advantage
home.
To any time you host somebody, they're traveling with all that jet lag and time change across the Atlantic Ocean, and you're just sitting at home. And I guess that applies for when you go on the road.
Mm-hmm.
but it just seems like
the ultimate home field advantage. With Jay Cutler Dolphins jerseys in your home field advantage.
Go winless on the road and
screaming for they don't know who, jet lag is something that there's only so much they can do to protect themselves against. This is why the players hate the international series. Like, the players hate it. God knows the coaching staff hates it. And, they'll talk PR-wise about the opportunity to grow the game, and they do have people who like American football overseas, certainly. There's leagues in Germany and other countries outside of the United States that have a degree of interest in American football, but the lengths that they are going to jam this down, basically for the purposes of international streaming rights, which is where I see what the answer to all of your questions is always money, but even more so now that, the behind-the-scenes stuff, Amazon, Apple, television networks, sports rights getting too expensive for people to afford because the price is not going down on those things, and TV networks are losing money hand over fist. If any of you are Disney stock owners, you know this. Oh, my God. Nightmare. But this is done with the purpose of packaging NFL rights internationally the same way that a lot of teams, a lot of leagues, the NBA, Major League Baseball, already Major League Soccer to an extent now with Messi certainly have the opportunity to do. NFL sees a piece of the pie they're not getting and they want it.
I bet players would appreciate more going south internationally than west, because I think it'd be a lot easier to adjust to.
To stay in your time zone?
A game in Mexico. We talked about the NFL looking at Brazil. You know what the time difference is in Brazil?
Mm-mm.
Like, what is it? It is 12:21 right now. It is 2:21 in the afternoon in Brazil.
Yeah, you like that.
2 hours.
You prefer that. Yeah, and they were talking pre-pandemic about playing games in Japan. And I know. I like the idea of going to Japan. Actually, I don't think I like the idea of going to Japan for a work trip. Not because I don't want to go to Japan. I think Japan, I was planning on going to the Olympics pre-COVID in Japan that year. But I like the idea of making that 3 nights in London is doable. Like, I can do a 3-night trip to London and not have it kill me, just speaking purely selfishly, but the idea of doing a Japan road trip would not be ideal. Emmett Jones says Mexico has higher elevation though, Lucas. That's not insignificant.
Yeah.
We talk about that with Denver and for players who have the sickle cell trait. Ryan Clark has talked about this. Mike Tomlin literally saying, your life is in my hands if I choose to let you play in this football game. Things like that do matter. And also laser pointers. Laser pointers with the Mexican crowd.
It's a thing.
Brock Osweiler with green lasers in his... I felt terrible for him, but like Brock Osweiler, who was already just floundering out there as a way overpaid Houston Texans quarterback, going up against the Raiders, and he's got Mexican fans pointing laser pointers in his face trying to get a pass off.
He was on the call for the USC game.
Which
Pac-12 after dark.
I watched that game, my God. And Miami. Again, we'll talk college football later in the week. A big week of college football. Obviously, Vols getting back in the swing of things with A&M at home. Should be a fun one.
By the way, Tennessee-Bama is slated officially for a 2:30 kickoff. So back-to-back weeks where Tennessee has the CBS game.
I think that ultimately the international trips are a bit of a plague. But for a team that can't figure out what the hell that they are, and a team that has... precious few prospects in a normal road situation. The best thing that you can have is that nobody has the advantage in London. It's all wacky, as evidenced by Jags, Bills, and what's happening with the Ravens. And maybe the Ravens get right. Maybe the Ravens catch all of their passes in Great Britain, as opposed to all the drops that they've had in the end zone for Lamar Jackson. I don't know what's going to happen in this game. There's no way for us to intelligently talk about strategy for this game when there's so many factors going into it. And of course, that's not a reason for you to not listen to the install this week, because we'll talk strategy there, or what strategy there is to be had. But this is a less than ideal time for them to have the international series. There's never an ideal time for these games, but this is a less than ideal one. Now, the side note on this is at least you're one of these teams that is getting a bye after the international game, because again, the Jags are not coming home from London after after beating the Bills.
After their residency.
Yeah, I was going to say coming home from London, when in reality London is their home. You live here now. But I think that the coin flip that is the London game is as much at an advantage this week for you as it is disadvantage. So at least it's a neutral situation. 615-737-1045 is the number. We'd be happy to have you at any point. Also in the F&M Bank chat. We will talk about what Mike Vrabel had to say there about Kristian Fulton, some comments there. Also, Treylon Burks and his potential availability. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. Mike Vrabel just wrapped up his press conference. We're talking Titans after a disappointing loss to the Indianapolis Colts yesterday at Lucas Oil Stadium. Now, I'm always curious to see how you guys, obviously, because this is the business that I'm in, and ultimately we, like your football team, work to serve you in our capacity as commentators, analysts, reporters, and otherwise. To serve the audience. So I'm always curious what direction you guys are going to take things in. Lucas, have you glanced at the chat lately?
Is there a quarterback discussion happening?
How?
I will say we were on the air for 3 hours yesterday on Titans Talk Back with Dr. Kevin Dyson, who'll be on tomorrow, by the way, 10:20.
Fun.
And not one call about Tannehill, which surprised me.
Okay.
Not because Tannehill was the problem yesterday, because he wasn't.
It was not.
But it has felt like we've gotten into this groove that the team loses. It doesn't matter who is responsible, and fans defer to Tannehill. That didn't happen yesterday.
Tyler Dial in the FNM Bank chat says, Buck, this chat is literally a constant quarterback debate. That's fair. I can't rely on the streaming chat for much. God love you all. But I can rely on you consistently, somebody bringing up the idea of benching Tannehill and there being a breakout debate that results there.
I think it typically stems from somebody saying, okay, not going to win anything this year. Let's see what we got. And that's very much a fan way to look at things and ignoring the people that are in the locker room playing for actual careers.
Which is what Jay says. This quarterback discussion isn't about Tannehill being the problem. It's about the season being lost. Well, I don't know that your season is lost in week 5. I don't feel overwhelmingly good about your season. I also told you I don't feel that they're the worst team in football. I just think they're kind of meh. I just think they exist.
Teams that are 2-3, even if at the bottom of their division, one game back from the top of their division, do not look around after week 5 at 2-3 and say, "Well, season's gone."
Yeah,
let's throw out the young guy. It's just not how this works.
And it may be for you. That's fine, because there are people saying it is lost. What do you mean? It's lost. It's lost. It's over. It's lost. We're dead. Okay, that's fine. You can exist in misery if you so choose. The rest of us have to soldier on through an 18-game regular season, a 17-game regular season, 18 weeks of it. So for the rest of us, you'll forgive us if we don't go about continuing to talk about a season lost in week 5. When it is very much, you are in better. Think about this. Now, Cincinnati Bengals look much better, but you are in a better position than the Cincinnati Bengals are, despite the Cincinnati Bengals looking like the team that you more associate Joe Burrow, or the player that you more associate Joe Burrow to be.
Same record.
Oh, that's right. I don't know why I kept thinking they only have one win.
They beat the Rams.
They did beat the Rams. That's right.
They had wins sandwiched. The Titans' loss was sandwiched in between their 2 wins.
We aren't looking like playoff contenders. Again, you were 2-4 the year that you went to the AFC Championship game. If you are welcome, I think it's stupid. I think it's a waste of time. I think it's a waste of your energy. But I'm not here to tell you how to spend your energy. You are entitled. Most of you, I assume, are grown adults, and you can do as you please. But you were 2-4 the year that you went to the AFC Championship game. I'm not saying that is coming this year. In fact, there's precious reason to believe that you would. But sure as hell, sitting in a press box in Denver, ripping them up and down for the fact that they were held scoreless against a Joe Flacco-led Broncos team in the worst football game that I've ever seen played. I certainly wasn't thinking, oh yeah, they have the potential to make the playoffs that year. Of course not.
Square Up on the FNM Bank chat says Buck and Lucas would rather go 8-9 than 4-12.
That's right. You're right. Yes.
But it's not about what we would rather do.
What kind of dumbass comment is that? Buck and Lucas would rather go 8-9 than 4-12? You're damn right. The idea that you are waving the white flag, how soft and weak-stomached must you be to sit there in your wallowing in your own misery saying, yeah, give me the 4-12. That kind of statement, how anybody could type that into it with the opportunity to edit. You have the opportunity to stop yourself, read your own comment before you press send. Of course. That is the lowest common denominator, or not even lowest common denominator. It's just the dumbest thing I've seen written in any of the shows today. Would rather go 8-9 than 4-12. Yes. Dummy.
8-9
wins is better than 4.
8-9 could win a division. Like there is a world in which 8-9 wins the AFC South.
The idea that you just think that you think you're just going to be gift wrapped Caleb Williams if you win 4 games? No. Because things like the Texans at the end of the year last year exist for the sole reason to make people like you insane. If you are so soft that you are willing to abandon all of your hope 5 weeks into the season, you're allowed to do whatever you want with your football fandom. I think you're wasting your time. Go find something else to do with your time if this is the way that you choose. That to me screams somebody who's more interested in off-season transactions than they are in the actual playing of the sport.
Yeah.
That is what that screams to me. That is somebody that I have no time for. None whatsoever. Keep it moving. Square Up says, and do what in the playoffs? Mickey Mouse AFC South Championship? It's like the Colts hanging up their pointless banner. Not as pointless as you actively lobbying for a 4-win football team, you dope. All right, I'm done.
But it's like the just be good when the new stadium comes, right? Like everybody in that building, players that are in their late 20s, early 30s, are just focused on a trend building up towards the opening of the new stadium. It's not reality. And you understand why fans think that way, but it's not reality.
No, I don't understand that. I'm not interested in understanding it. I'm not willing to tolerate it. I think that is the most mouth breather mentality that you could possibly have in an arena where you are talking about the ultimate competitors who have spent 22, 25, 29, 30 plus years of their life just to get to this moment for you to tell them, no, boys, it's cool. It's cool. I don't care about the sacrifice that you've taken to get here. I don't care about the coaching staffs and their families and all the people that'll get fired if you have a 4-win season and end up in God knows where.
We need a top 10 pick. Throw in the towel.
I need to go to break is what I need. Let's go. Let's do some polls coming up next. And then we'll turn things over to a more reasonable and nuanced Blaine and Mickey. So you can tell them that, and you can have Blaine Bishop rip your ass for having that kind of, I'm going to say a bad word, go to break. Last call for phone call, 615-737-1045 if you got them. We've also got comments in the F&M Bank chat if you want to try and raise my blood pressure again for the final 10 minutes that we have remaining here. You're welcome to do so. We are going to talk a lot of college football tomorrow. We'll also have the good Dr. Kevin Dyson hanging out here with us, so we will touch on some of the Titans' offensive issues with him as well. But a lot of college football stuff to get to. You want to talk about things that make you raise your blood pressure. I'm still mad at Mario Cristobal. I was more mad at Marcus Freeman than anybody on Saturday, and then Mario Cristobal fumbled into my life at the end of the evening and just made an absolute mess of things. So there will be college football discussion tomorrow as well, especially given that the Vols are off their bye. Get you ready for Tennessee hosting Texas A&M. Should be a good game. Meanwhile, there's a story that I wanted to bring up that I saw at the end of the day yesterday that was absolutely heartbreaking to me. And it's a terrible tease, I suppose. But I think that when you see what's happening in the news, and if you have not been paying attention to the news, Lucas, do you know what's happening in the news lately? Like the actual news, the real world news?
With Israel, yes.
Yes.
Very serious situation.
Hamas has attacked Israel. Of course, that has been an ongoing conflict for many, many years. This is a situation that I think about in particular because my family, my dad's side of the family, my entire dad's side of the family is in the Middle East, and I was, in fact, thinking about going to Egypt on the bye week because I will be off for the entire bye week, and since I'll already be in London, I was thinking about taking a quick 4-hour flight to Cairo. But things are uncertain right now, and that's a very, very scary situation for a variety of different reasons. But here's the football tie-in. Did you read the headline or the story from the Detroit News yesterday about Alex Anzalone? Alex Anzalone is an inside linebacker who was great yesterday in a blowout win of the Carolina Panthers. His parents are a part of a group of 53 Americans trapped in Israel right now after this large-scale conflict has erupted in the country of Israel over the weekend. How could you? I don't even understand how you would function. Like, I guess you don't know what else to do because you can't single-handedly go over there and, like, save them in some kind of Mission Impossible style situation. But they are a part of the the church group, First Naples. It's a Baptist congregation in Naples, Florida. They went over as a part of a trip with their church. They are now desperately trying to escape now that officially Israel declared war over the weekend that has broken out between Israel and Hamas, which is, of course, for those of you unfamiliar, the Palestinian militant group that has launched this. It was a surprise assault in Gaza over the weekend. So very, very scary situation. And, thinking about everybody that's involved in the conflict itself, I know that that's a really, really, hard note to bring to the table today, but it was a headline that I saw and I read the article. It's great work done by Justin Rogers of the Detroit News to find out about the story. I don't even know how that would come up in conversation unless Alex offered it up in conversation. But wow, I mean, just an unbelievable circumstance, and hoping that there can be a resolution found sooner rather than later. But this is not to get political, but this is as somebody who is a product of the Middle East, this is the story of the Middle East, and it's why it's so heartbreaking on a regular basis.
What poll open am I supposed to use after that?
Star Wars, make me smile. Do
Absolutely
it.
not.
Stop the count. Stop the count. The polls have closed and the votes have been tallied. Now, here's your favorite Buck Rising Show correspondent, Lucas Polzica.
What? Oh, I guess that's news. I guess we're talking about a news story. I guess that works.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on any non-specialty Ford. What was the most concerning aspect of the Titans' loss to the Colts? Ken says, how do you have Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins and be this bad in the red zone. Tyson said the defense looking like a JV squad. Dustin said Kristian Fulton, Mr. First Down, said the run defense is most concerning. It's been the bread and butter for so long.
God, Mr. First Down is a nickname for a corner. What a nightmare.
That's it. That's all you got.
I mean, I don't know what else you want me to give you. Yes, the defense was terrible. The offense in the red zone is poor, and I just spent 3 hours talking about it. You want more?
Which Colts quarterback is a bigger threat to the Titans, Anthony Richardson or Gardner Minshew? 81% say Gardner Minshew.
I did. 81% of you are out of your minds. The fact that Gardner Minshew was untouched allowed Gardner Minshew to operate cleanly against you. Your pass rush being non-existent, more an issue than Gardner Minshew was yesterday. But I do think that Gardner Minshew, there are some things that the Colts can do with Gardner Minshew that they can't with Anthony Richardson. That is quantifiably so. But Anthony Richardson is obviously a greater threat to you. Unfortunately, for the Colts and for Anthony Richardson, he's going to miss at least a month, it sounds like.
Can you imagine, though, telling Titans fans before the game, you're going to give up almost 200 rush yards, but neither Anthony Richardson nor Jonathan Taylor are going to play a factor in that?
Why, yes, I can. I feel like I do that at least 3 times a year coming in here.
Should the Jags ever leave London? 91% say no.
No.
Just stay over there.
Stay over there. That's, if not for the food. London's a lovely place. I love London. The people are great. The culture is incredible. The history is phenomenal. The food is subpar.
I was going to say, you said if not for the food, as though that was a reason to stay in London.
No. The food is not a reason to stay in London.
It's a reason to go back to Florida.
There are restaurants. Oh, imagine thinking Jacksonville, a more
culinary
hotbed that is
London,
Jacksonville, Florida.
London, I imagine, has just some incredible restaurants.
Of course they do.
But just British food.
The English people and their fare are not what you are seeking out. You are seeking high-end culinary stuff that is from other countries that are not the United Kingdom or Great Britain.
I'll crush some beans on toast, though. What hurt the Titans' defense more yesterday, the secondary or the front seven? A little surprised that 56% say the front seven.
I honestly think that's a larger ripple effect. Like, that there is non-existent pressure, amplified the problems that you have in the secondary. I'm inclined to agree with that.
The front seven can negatively impact the secondary more than the secondary can negatively impact the front seven.
Agreed.
And those are the polls.
Excellent. Well, that's the show. Prime time tonight. We will continue to talk about what Mike Vrabel had to say at the podium today. He brought up an interesting note on Kristian Fulton, and certainly we'll have that to discuss. We'll keep you updated with the radio show logistics this week. Obviously, there will be travel in the middle of that. There are some travel logistics that I'm currently working out, and we'll do so immediately after the radio show today. But that's not what you're worried about. You don't have to worry about anything, because Blaine and Mickey are coming up next.